Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Price Check Sports Podcast brought to you by the In the Zone Network, where we go city to city, state to state, worldwide. NBA action is continuing to roll on. We are deep in the trenches of the second round here. And of course, we got to talk about MVP performance from the MVP himself last night. Nikola Jokic leading the Denver Nuggets to take a 3-2 lead over the Minnesota Timberwolves after being down 2-0. And a lot of people kind of writing them off and thinking that this series may be done. MVP has stepped up and taken control of the series here the last 3 games. Last night especially, 40.7 rebounds, 13 assists. We've talked a little bit about whether or not he's been deserving of the MVP. I even said, while I thought that he had great numbers and had another great season, I probably would have voted for Shea if I had a vote. Jokic is doing everything he can to silence the haters and silence the doubters. 40 points, 10 assists. You're looking at first 40-point, 10 assists, 0 turnover games since Chris Paul in 2018. Also, the second player ever in NBA history with 40 points, 10 assists, and 65% shooting from the field in multiple playoff games. So, pace that he's been on this postseason has been crazy, historic. He's having another just crazy time against Rudy Gobert, who, he's won Defensive Player of the Year, I believe, 4 times now. And yet again, we see that it does not translate from regular season to postseason with him. Rudy Gobert was out there getting abused all night last night. Like, somebody in Denver should have probably called the police with what Jokic was doing to him on the offensive end the entire game last night. And it's not that Rudy Gobert wasn't trying, or that even some, possessions that he wasn't playing good defense. He was doing all that he could, and it just absolutely did not matter. Also, on the Timberwolves side, we love Anthony Edwards here on this show. I know a lot of people are, realizing the superstardom that he has in front of him. Only 5 for 15 from the field last night. In a pivotal game that they absolutely needed. He really wasn't there to carry them last night. So, Minnesota, man, as much as I thought that they had a chance to really come out of this and really make a statement in this series, I think it's over. Like, I really do. They didn't play like a team last night that showed me that they had a chance to actually win this series and come back. And especially with the way the momentum has shifted to Denver now, I think Denver wraps this up in Game 6. I don't trust Gobert and Cat to be able to slow down Jokic enough. I also don't trust Cat to stay out of foul trouble. Even if Anthony Edwards has a great game, we've seen now in this series, he can go off and the team still is not successful. So I think Denver's going to win Game 6 in Minnesota and win the series and go on to a Western Conference Finals, where they again look to continue their title defense here this postseason. So now, moving on to the Eastern Conference game from last night, you had the Knicks getting another major performance out of Jalen Brunson, 44 points in the Garden last night to take a 3-2 lead in that series. Another series that I think is probably done now. You can say the Pacers, they play better at home. They're going to have a little bit more of an edge in front of them going back home for Game 6. But people also have to remember they almost lost Game 3 at home as well. And I think when you have this Knicks team getting a little bit more rest in between games, they're going to have a chance to be able to close this thing out and also hopefully get a little bit more rest before potentially playing the Celtics, who we'll talk about here in a second. But the Knicks, Jalen Brunson is having a fantastic postseason, continues to put the team on his back. Things got a little chippy last night, felt a real old school Knicks Pacers-ish. But overall, I think the Knicks have shown themselves to be a little bit more of the tougher physical team. And Tyrese Halliburton was absent from last night's game. Don't know what was going on with him. I also don't know why they continue to put Nembhard on Jalen Brunson one-on-one when the couple games that they won in Indiana, Aaron Nesmith was the primary defender on Jalen Brunson in those games. So why you deviate from the strategy that got you wins, I'm not sure. Rick Carlisle did all that crying about, refs, small market teams need to have a chance. You got to give yourself a chance to make better decisions in terms of coaching and matchups. So I think that series is going to be done in 6 as well. I think the Knicks close that out on the road in Indiana and get to the conference finals, I believe, for the first time since 1999. So we're going to see what Brunson and team made of in that next round. But I think this Pacers team is still a year away from really finding their footing as a playoff team. So we've got 2 games tonight, of course, recording this on the morning of Wednesday, May 15th. Got the Celtics playing Game 5 at home tonight against the Cavaliers. You also got Game 5 in Oklahoma City. Dallas, pivotal Game 5 for them. That series being tied 2-2. Now, for the Celtics, I do think this game is going to be, kind of a heads and beds type of situation. We don't know if Donovan Mitchell is going to play after missing Game 4. Whether he plays or not, I think the Celtics are going to wrap this up. If they do, just some things to keep in mind with this Celtics team. This will be their third straight Eastern Conference Finals appearance. This will also be their fourth Eastern Conference Finals appearance in the last 5 years, fifth in the last 7. While that is all, we can say historic, you probably have some teams that have kind of had similar runs, different dynasties and things like that. But when you think about this Celtics team, that adds even more fuel to the fire, at least in my mind, that they have to pull this championship off this year. You go to 4 conference finals in 5 seasons with no championships to show for it. There's some impatience that starts to set in. There's some questioning and some doubt that starts to set in with your franchise. With a guy like Jason Tatum, who's been through all of these games in the last 7 years, this is the time where they need to get over the hump. And the statement game starting tonight has to be what does it. So I think the Celtics are going to win that one big at home. I think the spread on that game is like 14.5 right now. I honestly would take it given what we've seen the Celtics do this postseason. Now, we mentioned Dallas and Oklahoma City. This one is going to be a huge game for the outcome of this series. Oklahoma City showed a gutty performance the other night in Game 4, able to pull out a come-from-behind victory and that one to tie the series. This is a real back-and-forth series, but I think I'm honestly going to take Dallas in a slight upset tonight, and I think it's because Kyrie is going to be the one to be the catalyst for him. He's been picking his spots great. He's actually been playing great defense in this series. And I think you see a different side of Kyrie now than what people probably talked about and were used to in some of those Brooklyn seasons. Obviously, some extenuating circumstances on those seasons, especially during the pandemic and whatnot. But I do think that Kyrie shows up tonight in a big way in this Game 5, has a sense of the moment like a lot of guys on the court don't. Especially, your guys in Oklahoma City. I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, everything he's been doing. I love what Jalen Williams has done this season. Love what Chet has done this season. But none of those guys have really felt that type of pressure in these types of big games in the playoffs, late into the playoffs. I think Kyrie, who's been there before, Luka has even been there before. I think those guys, Luka to a lesser extent, but Kyrie specifically tonight is the one that's going to have the big game to be able to propel them to a Game 5 win and potentially a series win if they can pull it out and go back home for Game 6. So I did think that the series would probably go 7. Wouldn't be surprised if it does still go 7. But I'm going to go against the grain a little bit tonight. I think I am going to take Dallas to win that one. Now, on the topic of tonight's game, of course, got a parlay for it. We're going to do same game parlay plus from the folks at FanDuel across both of the games tonight. You got Jason Tatum, 8 or more rebounds. Darius Garland for the Cleveland Cavaliers with over 4.5 assists on the alternate line. Got those 2 legs from that game. And we got 3 legs from Dallas and Oklahoma City. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 30-plus points. Jalen Williams, 4 or more rebounds. Kyrie Irving also over 4.5 assists. That parlay for those 5 legs is going to get you plus 318 odds on FanDuel. So, of course, you want to follow along with me for better or worse, go ahead. But that's the parlay that we're going with for tonight's games. Now, before we go, we'll be remiss if we did not give the ladies some love. WNBA season did tip off last night. You had, of course, the defending champs, Las Vegas Aces, in action last night. They got a big win behind A'ja Wilson's 30 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists. Shout out to the MVP for a great game last night, putting the team on her back in that one with an 89-80 win over the Phoenix Mercury and Diana Taurasi. You also had Caitlin Clark make her WNBA season debut. Not the debut that she probably hoped for, and some of her fans probably hoped for, but this was that learning curve that Diana Taurasi talked about. People called her a hater. They called Cheryl Swoops haters. This was the truth from 2 women who have been there and done it for quite some time here in the world of WNBA basketball specifically. But Caitlin Clark comes out last night. She still drops 20 points, goes 4 for 11 from the 3-point range, 5 for 15 from the field overall. And then Of course, get a shout out to Dejanay Carrington for the Connecticut Sun. They end up winning that game 92-71. It was a pretty ugly game when it was all said and done. But she was the primary defender on Caitlin Clark for a lot of that game. Forced 8 of Caitlin's 10 turnovers herself. 10 turnovers, by the way, most for any WNBA player ever in their career debut. Caitlin Clark is going to be fine. She's going to continue to be great. She's going to build off of this performance and learn from it. But we also got to give her that room to grow. We not, everybody's talking about she's the GOAT, all this and that. Pump the brakes just a little bit, people. Pump the brakes just a little bit. She's going to be fine, but this was that welcome to the league moment that some of those veterans and Hall of Famers talked about, that, people kind of took as hate before, that is starting to show itself here, at least in this first game. Do we think that she's going to continue to struggle every game of her career? Absolutely not. She's a great player. She's going to get it figured out. But there is some figuring out that has to happen before she steps into the greatness that we saw her have at Iowa. So, just wanted to mention, of course, ladies' games last night. WNBA season is in full effect now. Going to continue to bring that up and talk through some of their storylines and things as the season progresses. But that'll do it today for the Price Check. Kept it pretty short, pretty brief today. Of course, definitely make sure you continue to like, share, subscribe with us on YouTube. Also, make sure you are following us on TikTok as we continue to do our NBA Throwback Thursday videos every Thursday, shouting out some player, coach, team, moment from previous eras here in the NBA. We'll also sprinkle in some WNBA now that the season has started for them as well. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Josh Price. Price Check. Check it out.